Welcome to Student Managed Learning. In this video, we're going to be talking about the digital learning competency for digital content and instruction. We're going to focus specifically on student managed learning. Take a minute and think about a goal that you've set for yourself. As an adult, we often find ourselves setting those goals and making plans to achieve them. Maybe we want to plan a vacation for our family and we need to save the money. Maybe we want to lose some weight. Maybe we want to volunteer our time more. Maybe you want to go back to school and you've been putting it off, and now is the best time to do that. There are countless examples of how we set goals daily, long term, short term. We set them, we assess them, and we monitor our progress as we strive to meet these goals. Now, having goals help push us forward. It gives us purpose in what we do, and ultimately it helps us grow and change. In the end, we look back and decide whether or not that we met our goals and if it worked. We come up with some next steps. Do we adjust that goal? Do we abandon it altogether? Or do we give ourselves some grace and a little more time to achieve what we want? In this competency statement, that's exactly what we're helping students do. As adults, we've mastered that skill, or we are continuing to master that skill. Students need to learn how to do that. So we need to help them set those goals and manage that learning and assess what they are doing to achieve that goal. In this section, we're going to talk about supporting student goal setting. The first step is to set an educational goal. Here, I'm going to say it's very important for us to make sure that we are assessing and to use those assessments to guide our whole group instruction, as well as to help students set goals to manage their own learning. We need to make sure that we are using pre-assessments and post-assessments and that they're the same. We do not want them to be different because they need to measure the same content standard. Assessments need to be based on the standards, and those standards need to be unpacked before we actually develop and design the assessments for students. We need to decide if the assessments are going to focus on mastering a skill or if they're going to be focused on growth. It's also important for students to understand their pre-assessment score so that they can set a realistic post-assessment goal. That is a big part of what the teacher's job is when they're talking with students about where they are and where they need to go, is helping them realize what is achievable and then when to push or when to bring them in a little bit so that they don't overreach for their goal. On this slide, we're going to be talking about goal setting and how that applies to the classroom. Goal setting and self-evaluation are life skills that can easily be folded into any instruction. Students need to be able to develop that sense of ownership that comes from being able to goal set and self-evaluate. Students who manage their own learning through goal setting and self-evaluation are oftentimes more engaged and are usually more successful in their learning. The image on this slide is a link to a Satori that will give you more information about the importance of student-managed learning. It'll also give you a little information about how to use digital tools to enhance what you're doing with the student-managed learning. When you click on the image, it's going to bring you to the Satori website where you will be able to look through the Satori that was created to help you gain a better understanding of student-managed learning. So as you scroll down and look through the Satori, you'll notice it's divided into sections. The first section is a Learn section. In this section, we've given you opportunities to read or watch at least one of the following resources to help build your understanding. Just like when we ask students to manage their learning, we're asking you to manage your learning. And so when you go back through the presentation, you will be able to click and choose one of these links. Now, we've given you options of videos as well as articles. Managing your own learning, you can choose which type of information you like to learn from best, whether it be video or an article. And we're also allowing you to choose more than one. So we've provided different choices for you to manage your learning as you're learning about student managed learning. Continuing down to the next section, where this section is about how putting student managed learning into practice and what does that look like. In this section, we're asking you to do at least two of the resources that are included. Once again, you can choose to do all of the resources, or if you feel like you've mastered it, then you may only need to do one. Once again, there's choices of videos as well as articles. But for this section, we've also given some questions to prompt thinking. So you'll be able to look through those questions if you need more of a directive on what you need to be looking for when you are researching through the material that we have given. In this next section, we have included an article that's going to give you more information about some apps that you can use to help goal set, as well as we've curated a list of different things that you can use, applications that you can use to set goals and to help monitor progress. Now, this is not every application out there. There are tons. This is just a list to get you started. And as you scroll down to the bottom, we've also included some things to circle back to the whole digital learning competency for content instruction by including some optional reading material on how student choice and voice helps with student managed learning. And then the next article is how the flexible seating in a classroom can also help manage student learning. Once you have finished looking through this presentation, you can maneuver back to the original slide presentation. You've set your goal. Now what? Well, we start looking at the next steps. We start looking at where we're going to record our starting point, where we're going to record that progress, and where we are going to record growth. We are briefly just going to talk about data notebooks here. There's also another presentation that's going to address data notebooks and assessments in more detail. But for here, I just want to make the note that data notebooking and data notebooks are a really fantastic way to help kids manage their learning. It's a great place for them to record all of their data and progress, as well as work samples that support that growth. Also, within a data notebook, you can put a pathway, a playlist, or some form of personalized learning document that will help students monitor and make note of their progress towards their learning goals. Now, we're going to do a lot. We're going to look through more pathways as we continue through this presentation. I just wanted to note that that's the next step, is now that you've set your goal, you're moving forward to putting it into practice and helping kids manage their learning. So, this next section is about how students are managing their own learning. When students begin managing their own learning, some of the things that we look for specifically to help students do that is creating and understanding learning profiles and making sure that students know how to record their progress. Teachers use what they know every day about students to plan and offer options that increase student engagement. Students can use what they know about themselves to manage how they learn, when they complete certain tasks, and keep themselves on track through their progress. They can also manage when, where, and how they learn. These aspects of student managed learning go hand in hand with student voice and choice. And one of the ways that we do that is through learner profiles. Learner profiles give students an understanding of how they learn best and how they master content the best. Do they learn best working independently with small groups or with teacher support? Giving students a voice and choice in how they learn helps them manage their progress towards their goal. It gives them ownership of what they are supposed to do and where they need to be Flexible learning environments can also be included in learner profiles. That addresses things like, do they focus better while they're laying on the floor or sitting in traditional seating at a desk? Do they learn best by watching and listening, or do they need to create it to process it enough to understand it? Giving students different choices on how they learn and where they learn, as well as time and pace, help them manage their learning and help them see progress towards their goal. It's also important to talk about recording progress. Data notebooking is another way to help students record their progress. Now, within data notebooks, you can use formative assessments or you can use informal assessments, but typically when we want to measure progress, it needs to be a formative assessment. Our district has found that pathways are an effective strategy to promote student-managed learning. Students set their own educational goals based on pre-assessments and are placed on a pathway that meets their learning needs. Within the pathway, students manage their learning by making choices such as the order in which they complete activities, where they work best, and how they best access content, whether it is a video, a hands-on activity, an independent work assignment, or working collaboratively with a peer or small group. Finally, students assess their own mastery through online platforms while tracking their data. Pre-assessment data can be used to place students on the pathway to guide that instruction. Within a pathway, there are multiple starting points based on each student's performance. PACE 1, 2, and 3 provide standards-based work for 3 different levels. Students who need more foundational knowledge before beginning on grade level work, students who are ready for on-grade level work content, and for those who have shown mastery in grade level content. Other work or options may be provided for those outliers that don't fit directly onto a pathway. These are some examples from our district. We have a high school science pathway, a middle school pathway, as well as an elementary pathway. On this slide, you'll see a video that was filmed in one of our elementary schools in which the students lead you through.
Hi guys, my name is Kayaja and I am in 5th grade, and I am going to be showing you what we're doing. We are working on pathways, and I have 5 people that are going to be telling you about our pathways. Hi Carson.
Hi, Kayaja.
I have a couple questions to ask you.
Ask away.
Okay, the first question. What kind of activities do you work on during pathways?
Oh, we have tons of choices, like read it, watch it, study it. Read it is when you click on a resource and you can read a passage that helps with what we're trying to learn. Or you can go over to one of the shelves and read something that she set out for us. Watch it is when you watch videos that help build your skills for that certain subject. And we have study it, which is also can be a hands-on activity, or it can be on a device. She'll have little mini games for study it, and it'll help us build our skill.
Okay, next question. Does each pathway have different activities?
It does. So say one of our pathways might have 2 people on there. It may have a hurricane pathway or a tsunami pathway. Tsunamis may have they may have a watch it video about sea breezes and land breezes, and a hurricane pathway may have something about La Nina and El Nino.
Okay, and last question. In what order do you work on this activity?
In any order you want.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Hi, Jaden.
Hello.
How was your day?
It's been going very great.
Okay, I have one question to ask you.
Ask away.
How do you get extra help if you need it?
Well, Miss Alton's there to help you sometimes, and other times she makes mini lessons for you. Other times there's flip video lessons to watch, and then other times you can ask a friend for help.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Sally.
Hi.
Okay, I have a couple questions to ask.
Okay.
The first question, what kind of assessments do you take in class?
We take pre-test, post-test, check-ins, and self-assess.
Okay. And the next question, what do you do with the data or feedback received from those assessments?
So what you do, say I got a 5 out of 12. What you would do, that would determine you would be on tornadoes, because that's how many you got wrong, and then 12 is the questions that you have.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Ari.
Hi, Kayaja.
I have one question to ask you. What do you like most about Pathways?
What I like most about Pathways is how you have freedom, and you can either read some at once and then go to watch it, or you can watch some and then read it. So you don't all have to do the read it's at one time and all the watch it's at one time. So that's what I like most about Pathways.
Thank you, Ari.
You're welcome.
Hi, Tristan.
Hi.
I have one question to ask you. What do you do if you need more than a day to complete an assignment?
You can go to 2 and 3 days instead of just once, and you can keep on working over and over again just to get one of your tests finished, and I think that's all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you guys so much for watching me telling you what we do in Pathways and Miss Alton's science class.
In this section, we're going to be talking about assessing progress through the use of digital tools. One way students can assess their progress is through online programs that may include both free and paid versions. A few examples could be Nearpod, Pear Deck, MobyMax, Common Lit, Splash Math, iReady, etc. These assessments can be used as formative measures as long as the teacher is making sure that they are documenting the scores from these online platforms. Being able to assess progress through digital tools is oftentimes very rewarding for students. It's immediate feedback, so students know exactly where they are with the standard at all times. They know and should be able to tell you what they have been able to complete and what they still need work on. Remember, these assessments can be either formative or summative through these digital platforms. Don't forget, there are also digital platforms like Kahoot or Quizlet that can also be used to measure progress for students. We also need to remember that as we are assessing this progress, that we are continuing to update data notebooks, whether they are digital or hard copy. Digital versions can include visuals from screenshots that students have taken after they have completed assignments on these online platforms. They can also record audio to show whether they have mastered a standard. On this last slide, we created a Google tour of a classroom where students are engaged in managing their own learning. Specifically on slide 2 of this tour, you will be able to visit a classroom and experience what it's like for students in that classroom. Click on the picture to go to the link. I have also provided a video explanation of the classroom. In this video, we are using Google Tour Builder to show you a completed tour of a classroom in an elementary school. This first grade classroom with the teacher, her name is Mrs. Abernathy. This is in one of our district schools at Schuford Elementary. We put together this example using a 3D camera and Google Tour Builder. So as we move into the next scene, you'll notice the classroom where students are actively engaged throughout the classroom, working independently, together, or in groups. Because this is a Google tour, it will continue to circle around the entire room. Now, One of the shortcuts when you're exploring this site yourself is you can click on the icons that may appear and it will tell you about what is happening in this section. For example, in this section, we have students that are working independently. They have the opportunity to use technology in these places, and they can work independently throughout the room. And as you span the room, you'll notice that several people are working independently. During this time, they can work on activities that are self-paced, tasks that have been assigned by the teacher. They can work on online programs with skill mastery. They can also view flipped instruction as well as work with different presentation tools. So as we go back into the room, we can maneuver around the room by just clicking and dragging. We can also maneuver by clicking on the headings here in this box. So I'm actually going to click on the first WIN board here, and it's going to take us to this section. The WIN board is used in classrooms to encourage students to make good choices about what they need based on their data in their notebooks. They collect that data through pre-assessments, check-ins, and post-assessments. And every day, there is a time in which students can practice the skills that they need to work on. Here, this is a What I Need board, and this one is math-based, and you'll see the different math standards for this first grade classroom. Students are able to move their names back and forth to the stations that they need help with. Moving on to the next header, we have the small group activities. You'll notice that there are places within the room for kids to work together and independently. And at this table, we have a small group of students working together. This group was put together based on their data, and they are working together on a specific skill towards mastery. And in this example, the kids are moving and practicing while working on counting to 100. At the teacher guided instruction table at the back, the teacher is working with a small group of students who have similar needs, whether it be someone who is not mastering a concept or whether someone is this group is needing to be pushed onto a higher level concept. The teacher will guide instruction based on where the student need falls. So they may be doing some reteaching or they may be doing some acceleration at the table. But all of this focused instruction is going to be based on the data that is taken through their formative and summative assessments. And then the last thing to take a look at in this classroom is flexible seating. Our district is really big about encouraging students and teachers to use the flexible seating in the classroom to create an environment for each individual child that is most conducive. Some work better at tables, some work better in comfy chairs, some work better in groups. So the room is laid out with different types of seating for students to use to work through the different activities of the day. They are able to choose their own style seating based on how they feel most comfortable when they are learning. So, how does student managed learning support remote learning experiences? Unfortunately, we are in a bit of an unknown situation moving forward into the next school year. Student managed learning helps promote learner agency by giving students a voice and a choice so they can better manage their own learning. It also shifts that ownership away from the teacher and gives that ownership to the students, and they become responsible for what they are learning and how they are learning it. It also really empowers them to speak for themselves so that they know, yes, I am getting this, and no, I am not. I hope you have enjoyed our presentation on student managed learning. Thank you for your time.